And so I found that really interesting, that this whole idea of becoming shamanic. So when I wanted to become more gay, I found it the same as becoming more shamanic. So it wasn't really, even though I was using kind of, say, Native American metaphors and otherwise being in ways that I would now start as culturally imperialistic, but I would look at it that way, so I wouldn't call myself as a shaman now, or write in those kinds of forms. But none, it represents where things were at that time, and as such, it's an early way to kind of practice really being with my psychology. And I've already been learning from first being my own personal psychology, what it's like to be with my own personal business, which is my own feelings, sort of how I feel about myself, as I think I'm good or bad. And as you all know, I'm sure from your own stuff, it's quite a whirlwind in there. It's quite a ferocious experience to open up to that experience of where one's constantly under that rule of evaluations of one's beingness or one's goodness or one's nature. So if I was now interested in making sure that I could be open and okayly gay to myself in those ways, just being myself to myself, then it pulled me in more and more to this place I'm sharing with you, I'm describing with you. It was not so much to be shamanic, okay, in that more romantic way that at first the words are saying and it's framing. It's really all just a way by which I'm enabling myself to gradually approach my psyche. And my psyche in terms of different levels of what you might call, say, personalness, gradually getting less personal as I keep reaching deeper in, let's say, in terms of relating with what I find, what I feel, what I'm learning how to feel better and better, and opening myself up to what I feel, and addressing what I feel too, because I find always when I open up to what I'm trying to notice in the moment, which is my feelings, that right away I'm going to be feeling unfinished trauma, always. Because right away, that's who I am, that's who I become. So since I've been probably 13 years old, I've gradually tried to more and more appreciate that if I want to be authentic, first of all, I'm being pulled inside by the trauma to go back there to be with its feelings, its effects. And so now I'm learning how to be pro-gay, you see, and now I'm still into trauma and all that. I'm associated with being gay and now homophobic of being gay, and yet I still have to come to terms with the feelings. It doesn't relieve me of the bad feelings, because I can understand that, I feel bad about being gay. I'm trying to be more gay, so I feel more bad. But I can't escape from feeling more bad because I feel more pro-gay, let's say, more positively gay. I still feel that's bad feeling. Just acknowledging it, you see, doesn't let me get more into it. So I have to grapple with that more seriously. So I call it shamanism because I felt that what was trying to grapple with me really was my own fear. And my own fear was like a demon. So if you read actual shamanic literature, you'll see the shaman gets his or her initiations often vis-a-vis demonic beings or transpersonal figures who are quite terrifying, quite frightening. And I certainly encountered this place in myself if I didn't run away from it as being like that, a transpersonal, awesome awfulness that I could not bear, I couldn't bear to handle it. So I thought if I to learn to handle it, one would become shaman. So I followed these traditional ways up to a point, and I found that being gay itself was its own initiatory path, which is what I've been then trying to write about. How could that be so if one doesn't simply act it out on the one hand, that it's just have a succession of little levers, let's say, and so you really externalize constantly your interest in it. Doesn't mean you can't have external people and romantic involvements. I'm talking about when you're externalizing as a way to avoid what's in, where the source of all experience is, whether it's internal or external. It's always from inside. There is no other source of any experience but what's inside experience. And if one turns within that, then that's what becomes interesting, always. And how to get more into that becomes more and more, in a way, challenging. So how to keep it so that I wouldn't lose track of the goodness of being gay, even though I had to acknowledge places inside that were heavily traumatized around that. And if I just went to, well, it's good to be gay, I couldn't acknowledge what was feeling so awful because it was so despised. Say, trying to grow up my mother was terribly cold and didn't love me at all. It's just my fate that I was a little gay child. I happened to be that way, and so I internalized this coldness. It means a person, but also means gay. It was the way it just turned out to be. So it became the same thing, as long as I'm seeing myself as a human being, but I'm not overtly being there with what is gay about it. Somehow I'm still being anti-gay, I'm not being authentic to myself. It's how to capture that and stick with that, because I'm picturing only my own training to be anti-gay, and to be raised to be opposed even to my own impulses, which are homosexual. But that, my ancestors going back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, even. To go back to a time and place even before that, hundreds of years ago, to find anything more supportive or encouraging of this kind of sense of homosexual valuation, what we now might call homosexual valuation, as other times and places have been able to appreciate and cultivate and take advantage of or use in helpful ways. And our world, as you may, I'm sure, all be aware, needs as much help as possible, realistic assistance, of course, so hopefully, whatever that might mean. I'm suggesting homosexuality itself has such a possibility, trying to make that real is what led me to greater authenticity. And for example, if we go back a little more than the introduction, I think a little time to restart the actual essay, Becoming Gay-Shamanism. This is a point several years earlier than the introduction I first read here, when I'm beginning more so to now practice this idea of, let's call it being gay-centered. So I'm trying to listen to the desire, the feelings I'm feeling, and I'm trying to take it seriously more so. I already tried to work out in this first essay, Visionary Love, a way of getting closer, or tighter handle on the I call it like a person. It's really a desire or an impulse, but imagine as if it's a person. It's not like a human being. It's not like our friend down the street. It's itself. It's itself. It's the kind of person that it is. Meaning the desire itself. If you don't treat it as a particular person, your own feelings of desire, if you don't treat them as any particular person, but rather the feelings of desire themselves, is what I'm talking about, you'll find that they come from their own source. They have their own roots, and that's what I'm talking about. The person who's down there has such interests, has such desires. It's not one's ego. Of course, not one's ego at all. And how does one do that? How does one get in touch with those? I thought at first it was about shamanism. It's really a metaphor for getting in touch with the psyche. My own psyche, first of all. Levels where I was trying to take better and better responsibility for my own personal issues that would come to me through the issues of my trauma. But it also had aspects that were transpersonal, as we all do. Symbols are what we're having, which are all our experience. And they have many levels. They have personal and impersonal levels at once, always at the same time. How to be able to appreciate all of that, be able to have a more and more depthful and integrated experience of what's happening, is what I became more and more interested in. So perhaps I'll share with you the beginning of this essay, Becoming Gay-Shamanism. That references trying to actually live this way a little bit more day in, day out, and what it led to me having to be like, or having to do, to describe it. Greetings, may harmony be with us. I have been asked to share more of my vision of gay magic, so these are the people who've read the first essay on Visionary Love, and they want me to say more about it. This vision is my tool to harden and strengthen my living, and practice my vision, thus strengthening and completing it. I'm trying to convey here how I do this, not just as a trick of my head. This in turn furthers my practice, and thereby I move in a spiral of creation. To find your vision means to enter your own soul. To follow it means to walk backwards from out of your soul, always facing its heart. Thus, the key which unlocks the promise of gayness isn't to be found in extroversion, in groups and sisters, brothers, teachers, or leaders. This is why most published work in gay magic has so far been mild, even trivial. The key has been lacking. But on the other hand, this lack has been an asset, protecting the unprepared from their own foolishness. This essay is about that key. And that foolishness, by the way, is why all through all these decades it's taken all this time to set up a homosexual psychological institute, and then this more formal training program within it is this unprepared for homosexualness and its true richness of value. So I would say we're all so unprepared for that. We're trained from way before birth to be so disparaging and so awful towards things that make it all like it's backwards to the way it should be. I can see why people would encounter early standards, for example, when they came to the New World. The local peoples would think they're nuts. Or here in the American West, when the whites would come out west, often the local peoples would think they're nuts, and they weren't wrong either, right? Okay. Regarding my being a teacher, a leader, it may help to know that I have a special friend who tells me that I'm really nothing. A nothing with a little tiny point in it. I have a little tiny thing. A point in it. Then the rest of me appears as a terrified child stumbling out of dark nightmares toward a distant light. In other words, I don't know any more than you do ultimately, and if you see this, good for you. Remember, everyone has an asshole. It's hard to imagine I actually tried to live like this. It's a very strange thing, and people who might have known me back then, Chris, for example, not maybe all the way in 1977, but that whole world. It seems to me, a feeling of this. It can only be kind of recalled a little bit now. I can't burden on that time and place. It seems to me that most gay men are alienated from most of their gayness. Perhaps this is as it should be, or self-alienation holding us back from dangerous things we're not ready for. This alienation is our blind spot. It makes us miss important messages coming across the Rainbow Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge connects here, so-called material or mundane reality, with there, the meta-reality. There is the hub and source of all realities, all wisdom and energy, which I've also called Loka, the cosmic start point. All things, quote, spiritual, unquote, originate there. The heart of gayness exists there. The gift of gayness lies in increasing ability to see and enter on the Rainbow Bridge. I've called the heart and gift of gayness Roika, but due to anti-gayness, gay men have been diffused from Roika. Thus they can't pick up messages coming from there. They often ignore and misunderstand them. Anti-gayness is the technique Western society developed to keep gay men from actualizing our Roika. When gay men actualize Roika, they become a powerful threat to Western society. To realize Roika is to transform ourselves. I don't know much about this transformation. Even this name, Roika, reflects my ignorance, since many people won't connect with it at all, and I know myself in it later. Even though that which Roika refers to lives in every gay man. But I'll try to support and stimulate your Roika anyway, because my guide, who lives there, has asked me to, and I've freely chosen it. This is the purpose of my writing, and hopefully your reading. You can look at these words as an offered set of tools that you may find useful. These tools are meant to help actualize Roika. They themselves are also Roika. This essay extends and develops some tools first talked about in Visionary Love, concerning those aspects of gay personality development called spirit warrioring and the Roika shaman. Tools I describe can be dangerous. This is in part why I couch them in seemingly strange names and ways. The danger, I mean, is if you face what's underneath the way you've adapted to your own wounds. I would prefer no obscurity, but that is impossible, because crossing the Rainbow Bridge is tricky and needs caution. If you were tempted onto it prematurely, you could fall off into psychosis or suicide or turn on others in evil ways. Adolf Hitler is a good example of this latter result, so I have a moral obligation to help avoid the horror potentials lurking on the Roika path. I'm urged on, however, by the violent destruction in our world today. My anger, disgust, and suffering encourage me to tell what I've seen and experienced as clearly and simply as possible. Hopefully the tools I'll describe here will gradually wake up and grow on you too, as they have with me. Roika starts out as vague mysteries, puzzles with a hidden solution, which may not come clear till long after you start paying attention to them. Your anger can help you with this. As far as I can tell, every gay man is filled with murderous rage. This rage is energy turned foul and stored up in us as we're forced, starting in childhood, to undergo anti-gayness.